Hey, hey, hey. This is Dr. Jonathan Shepard here on another Friday evening, Friday, February the 12th, 2021. It is so good to see you all coming in the room. I am blessed to be alive. I'm blessed to see another day. I'm blessed to be able to communicate with you all. I am really thankful for all those who have been following the Ask the Doctors broadcast. It's been almost 1 year. I'm looking forward to that 1 year celebration. 11 months in counting where I have come to you on behalf of my organization, Hope Health Systems, to bring to you pertinent topics that relate to mental health, pertinent topics that allow us to discuss how to be able to manage our mental well-being, especially in the midst of a pandemic. And even when this pandemic is over, we'll still need to know how to be able to manage our mental well-being. Thank you for coming on in. I always give a few minutes for people to chime on in. Thank you for those who are already starting to comment. Thank you, Chris, for being a faithful viewer. I also want to acknowledge all those viewers who will go back and watch the replays. As I have said over and over again, we typically get twice to almost triple the number of viewers via the replays. And want to, again, shout out to all those who are doing that. I know you're going to forward it. I know you're going to like this broadcast. I am excited about what we're going to discuss today. Let me just bring you up to speed on a couple of things before we get started. So as you know, the corona, or I should say the COVID-19 vaccine is released and continues to be distributed. Today, I got the second dose. And so I am now on my way to being fully vaccinated. I say on my way because after you get the second dose, it still takes about 2 more weeks for your body to build up immunity or full immunity to the virus. And I will say this, I got the second dose through the Baltimore City Public Health Department. And I want to give a shout out to them for those people who are watching, who are part of that public health committee. Today was an awesome experience. It was much quicker, shorter. I walked in, the people were ready to greet me. They were able to lead me through every station. They were concerned about me. They answered all my questions, any fears that I may have had. I was literally in and out probably in 30 minutes. That was unheard of. The first time I went, I waited in line for over 30 some minutes. But this time, the whole experience was about 30 minutes. And so, I got my second shot. And I'll be honest with you, it's been a little bit emotional. It has been. It's been emotional. It's been emotional because I think about all the different people who were unable to get the vaccine prior to it being released. And my heart goes out to those families. My heart goes out to those loved ones who have been affected by death due to the coronavirus. And so know that I am Dr. Shepard, Jonathan Shepard, is concerned about your family, those who have lost loved ones, those who are still grieving. The coronavirus has not gone away. I was looking at the statistics today. Deaths are up to about 471,000 plus deaths from this virus, greater than any other country in the world. And so with the vaccine, we need to be educated and we need to be able to know why we're getting it. But I feel like I did my part today in helping to eradicate this virus. When I say eradication, yes, the virus can mutate. And yes, there are mutants out there. But when we fight together as a unit, we can make sure that our loved ones stay safe. And so that's a little bit of my monologue today. I plan to be back here next week. Someone was joking that if I start breakdancing next week, then something's wrong with that vaccine. Oh, what they don't know is I can dance. You just ain't seen me dance. Oh my God. Oh, wouldn't that be something? Man, that would go viral. Dr. Shepard started dance. Anyway, let's get to the seriousness of what we're going to talk about today. Sheila Vickers is out there. Thank you, Nick, for recognizing her from New York, and thank you for watching. There's going to be so many others that are going to be joining in on this. Thank you, Toya, a constant supporter, a great, faithful supporter, and we wish you a happy anniversary. I noted that with you and your husband, so thank you for chiming in. And so send some messages. Let me know that you're out there watching. So again, I've done enough of the talking, this monologue, and I'm ready to get this show started. We've got some wonderful people, some educated folks who are skilled in their craft. And so I want to bring them on. I'm going to bring the first person on. She is a principal, and her name is McKenna Lewis. I'm going to have her come on. And once they introduce themselves, then we will talk about what the topic is. All right. How are you doing, McKenna Lewis?
I am doing well, Dr. Jonathan Shepherd. God has been good. He's kept me safe as I continue to do the work during the pandemic. So like you mentioned, so many people, that is not the case. Just to share with the audience, again, my name is McKenna Lewis. I am the proud principal and lead learner at James Harrison Elementary School in Prince George's County, Maryland. This evening, I am speaking on my own behalf. I am not serving as a representative. However, I do bring that body of knowledge as I share with this particular community tonight. So I'm excited to share with you all and really help the greater audience have a better understanding of what all is going to be required moving forward.
Absolutely. Wonderful. I love it. Lead learner. Come on here.
If we're not learning, they're not learning, right? That goes for the staff and the students. So always in a posture to learn.
Absolutely. Oh, I love it. Already setting the tone. All right. Here is a friend of mine who's going to come on here, and he's going to educate us. He's going to try to keep me in line too, but that's all right. I'm ready for him today. That is the administrator, Nicholas South, or Nick as we call him. How are you doing, sir?
Good evening, Dr. Shepherd. All is well. Thank you so much. Good evening to all of our virtual listening and viewing audience. What a joy it is to be here on this evening, sharing with such illuminated and prolific leaders and learners as Dr. Shepherd, and I almost said Dr. McKenna Lewis, who is one of the premier educators there in Baltimore area. I'm Nick South, and this evening it gives me great pleasure to come on and share with you as the proprietor of Strategic Learning Achievement. In my professional acumen, I serve as an academic officer for the International Baccalaureate Program. I supervise a multiplicity of instructional leaders and students in the Metro Detroit area. And so as McKenna said, she is the lead learner, and I am the primary student because, again, you teach what you know, but you reproduce who you are. And so I want to be a part of the reproductive process of successful learning. Thank you so much for having me this evening, Dr. Shepherd.
All right, reproductive process of what you come on here, reproductive process. Well, I love it. I love it. I love it. And then last but not least, we have the Lord Administrator. Yeah. I was about to call her superintendent, but I don't know if that's the case, but she will she will let you know. But I am so happy that Catherine Toller is here once again. She was with us back in July. If you imagine, it's been that long, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But welcome, Catherine. She's been a part of this before. So good to see you again. How are you doing?
I am well, thank you. And thank you for your very gracious invitation. I am humbled to be here with McKenna, Nick, and of course, you. My name is Catherine Toller. I am a program evaluator with Baltimore City Public Schools. I am not speaking on behalf of Baltimore City Public Schools. Tonight, I am representing parents. So I am speaking as a parent this evening. I have a wonderful son. an 8-year-old son now, Levi. And so I am pleased to speak on behalf of parents this evening.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so we look forward to that perspective that you will bring to the table this evening. So let's get started. All right, you all are ready? Let's jump on in. The rules are we were just having a conversation, and the topic, hopefully that drew you in, is: are schools safe to reopen for Black children in America? I'm particularly focusing in on Black children in America because this is Black History Month. And so we will get to answer that question, but how we answer that question will be succinctly in different parts. So what I want to do is McKenna, you'll start out. We want to talk about how things have changed. You were with us in November. You and Nick were together here in November. And so I want to get a chance to see if you would share with us, how have things gone within your school district, within your particular school, in relation to virtual learning, and with the mandate that Governor Hogan here in Maryland has given us, that schools need to reopen back by March 1st. So that's a lot. So I'm sorry. I know they'll get that much.
A lot, but I can manage.
But just take a little bit of it, all right? And then we'll pass it on to everybody else.
Absolutely. So I think the first part of your question was, how has distance learning gone since we last spoke? I do have to say that I am incredibly proud of my staff because they had to make lots of adjustments to their professional practice as it relates to delivery of instruction. And so with that, particularly serving a community that's largely Black and brown, there comes lots of needs. We also, in my particular building, house 2 special education programs, and we have a large English language learner population. So they're just layers upon layers in terms of needs, as well as instructional supports that our students would have required in the building. And so providing that level of support and care in a virtual world just added, like I said, an additional layer. I have to say that, I feel like some leaders emerged in my building. I think I shared last time that there were some things that we learned in terms of what our programming lacked as it relates to how well we were interfacing with families. And I think one of the things that we've been able to do is fill that gap with just increased communication, increased focus in empowering parents, working with parents as it relates to technology, giving them more information around the curriculum, what students at this age and grade level should know and be able to do. And so we did more around partnering with parents. And I think that has really benefited our children. As a leader, I have grown, I have been stretched, I continue to be stretched because now I'm preparing to open a building under circumstances that we have never opened buildings before. So this is unlike opening the building from the summer. However, as I continue to monitor the instruction from day to day, so that has increased the workload. But I am hopeful that we're going to make the best decisions as it relates to staff and students, because safety is a primary expectation from the district, but it also is just something that is going to be needed in order to facilitate a smooth transition. So our roles have shifted as it relates to staff, students, myself, but I am hopeful that we can begin to establish a new normal.
Okay, Nick, jump on in. How have things gone for you since the last time we talked, the last 3 months? And
so needless to say, it's been a tremendous shift. One of the things that I will say is that when we last spoke, we talked about the stability that my district was able to maintain. And as you indicated, our governor as well has stated that the goal is for all schools to return to in-person learning by March 1st. I am proud to say, however, that while we are reflective and inclusive in our approach to the governor's request, we're still prioritizing parents and students and evaluating the safety of students, evaluating the preparedness of teachers, and not getting in such a rush that we make a mistake that could cost someone their life. I heard Dr. Shepherd at the onset talk about that he's been vaccinated. I am scheduled to go tomorrow to get my first round of the vaccination. And so, as Dr. Shepherd said, one of the things that I will say how things have went since we last spoke, I was just thinking today, we talk about PTSD. I think, one of the things that I focused on as a leader is being very transparent and open and encouraging those in my district to deal with PCSD, post-COVID stress disorder. And as an individual that was personally impacted by COVID multiple times, and then, through work and looking at the impact it had on teaching and learning, one of the things that I did was, a lot of self-reflection, McKenna, a lot of self-reflection as a leader, because you understand as a leader, we give off the element of, if individuals feel like we don't think it's going to work, it just falls apart. And so in reflecting on a quote from The Art of War by Sun Tzu, one of the things that kind of came to me was, we don't repeat the tactics which gained us the victory, but we let our methods be regulated by the infinite variety of circumstances. So I'm not looking to replicate what worked. I'm looking to look at what are the circumstances now, and then try to evaluate what do we need to do. So as we delve further into the conversation, I'll share more about what it looks like in our district. We're still totally virtual. Wow. We have not went back to in-person, and I'd like to talk a little bit about that more as we move on.
Yeah. Catherine, let's jump on in. Tell us a little bit about what's going on up there in PA.
Yeah, I have been so pleased with our school district. Our son has returned to school in a hybrid format. So he attends school 2 days a week. He has been attending school since August. And we have not experienced, now that's not to say there have been no cases. That's not to say that's unrealistic. I think if we're thinking we're going to go back to school and nobody is going to get coronavirus, that's what we pray for. We are hopeful. We do everything we can to mitigate the transmission of the disease, but to the best of their ability, I feel like the school district has been transparent. They've been responsive. They've been responsible. They've been accountable. There is an accurate dashboard that we can go to at any time to see how many cases we receive. Daily emails about cases daily. Like if there are cases in the district that day, we receive the daily email, how many cases, what schools, their response. So I have been so pleased. I have a child who needs to be in school. He is intelligent. That doesn't negate his intelligence. I am an educator. My husband is an educator, but he is in second grade. That is not our level. We do work with him, and he needs the skilled assistance, the skilled instruction from a certified teacher. And so we have been so pleased with his education.
That's good. That's good. Well, thank you for adding that perspective, because I'm telling you, people need to hear that. Now, McKenna, and again, we're just going to kind of go back, and as I told the panelists too, please jump in whenever you feel ready to. But McKenna, so we're hearing that Catherine is having a good experience, right? So how are you preparing there in Prince George's County in Maryland? So the governor, again, has given the mandate that the schools are open back in March. So how is it that we can prepare and then alleviate these concerns, such as parents, as Catherine has talked about?
So one of the things that we are doing in our district and even within my building is each building leader is tasked with devising a COVID compliance committee. And so that committee is made up of administrators, the cafeteria manager, building service workers, teachers. So teachers on different grade levels and different specialty areas, as well as parents in a lot of the buildings. And so what happens is we are really looking at unpacking what the district has provided, which is very comprehensive in terms of guidance for reopening and planning for reopening. What does the building look like? What do the new traffic patterns look like? What does the classroom setup look like? What new schedule needs to be devised to minimize different people in spaces? How do we reassign tasks or work to people so that we can keep the group smaller? Do we need to stagger different things within the building? Are different homes going to be repurposed in terms of, just to keep the groups smaller? So we have an overall committee, and then we have broken that committee down into a logistics subcommittee, a building services committee, as well as an instructional committee. So those people with their different levels of expertise, lend their information, their research based on what's going on in different areas. We're conversing with people in different parts of the country to make sure that we are putting best practices in place. And like I said, I have some vulnerable populations within my building, students who don't necessarily communicate. We have nonverbal students. And so again, we have to be extremely diligent in ensuring that the varied needs of students with severe cognitive disabilities are being addressed. So one of the other things that Catherine mentioned, and I think that's very important, is communication. And being transparent. There are things that are changing moment by moment. Yeah. And that's even at the district level. Information is coming very quickly. Things are changing. And so we've kind of established in my building how communication will take place, how pertinent information will be disseminated. We really are thinking about how are we sure that people are really clear about what their roles need to be, training and professional learning opportunities, as well as, even probably more important, communicating with families. And so like this Tuesday, we had a PTA meeting, the absolute best attended PTA meeting since I've been in the school. And so during that time, we shared as much information as we could around what it will look like, what the day will look like, what the requirements will be for entering the building for parents. And I think one thing that I did not consider is our parents had a very different understanding of what returning to school was going to look like from what actually is going to be the case. So I don't think we fully explained what hybrid meant because parents were kind of taken aback about what that means. Only coming, like Catherine's son, only going to school 2 days a week, sitting 6 feet apart, PE and recess being very little contact. So keep in mind, this district, I think a little bit different from the district that Catherine's son was heavily impacted, the most impacted community in the state. Right. And so some of the things that we have to put in place, heartbreaking, but at the same time, part of my responsibility is teaching and learning as well as safety. Right. So the return will not be the return to school as families and students know it or have known it. So, right. So lots of things being put in place to ensure the reduction of or the least amount of impact in terms of spreading COVID.
Yeah. So Nick, I want you to speak now to that parent who is struggling to return back to the schools there in Michigan? I forget which county that you are working in.
So yes.
So
So
speak to
in Wayne County, so our major metropolis area, Wayne County, Oakland County, Macomb counties. Again, the majority of our districts are still in virtual learning. The consensus among parents and among teaching staff has been that until we reach a certain level of vaccination, that the majority of them just feel like the risks outweigh the potential benefits, or that we need to migrate and continue to utilize virtual learning. And again, every state is different, and we try to respect the rights and perspectives of all parents, and realize that all students do have different needs. But in our district and in our area and in our region, the overwhelming majority have consented that we're going to continue with virtual. Now, it has required a lot of communication. It has required the centralization of how information is disseminated. It has required an enormous amount of collaboration, from ensuring that students have access to technology and devices, working with philanthropic and charitable organizations to ensure that internet accessibility is had by all of our students. It's required a tremendous depth of professional development and instructional support. When you talk about a teacher, they went to school to teach in a school. Previously I was principal of a virtual school. So, it was kind of second nature for me being able to make the transition back to supervising teachers and students online. But by and large, that wasn't the goal, nor was it the schemata of instructional leaders. And so being able to be that bridge from parents to teachers to help them understand that you've got to give teachers a chance to, turn this curve, that it won't happen all at once. We have put in place a continuum of instructional development. We tried a multiplicity of models from, full day instruction and immersion based on their regular schedule, to half day, to block schedule, to what I need Wednesdays, where there's no instruction on Wednesdays. It's all connect with your teacher and get whatever it is you need. We're facing mandatory state assessments, where ordinarily, as you all know, students would just come in the building. We'd administer PSAT, SAT, ACT, NWEA. There's forgive all the acronyms. But now we're trying to evaluate and figure out, along with how do we get our buildings open, how are we going to test thousands of kids on standardized and required assessments?
Wow.
And so it has required an enormous amount of patience, flexibility, focus, and then asking parents to remember that nothing is more important than the health and safety of your child. And I want to have a transparent moment. I see some of my friends who are educators as well in our viewing audience, and so even with them, I have had to share, that we have had parents who have showed up and said, "Can y'all just open the school for today? I need a break." And I'm telling the truth. I see McKenna shaking her head. And so it has been a challenge. And I think Catherine spoke to it so eloquently, that even though she is a degreed, certified, licensed professional educator, not in that area. And so when you have parents, even those who are experts, saying, I am not equipped to give my child what they need.
Right.
I think what this has done is, I think it has raised an awareness about the necessity of schools. And I hope that it has raised, I'm putting a shameless plug in here. I hope it has raised an awareness about the resource, that when we ask for resources and ask for funding and ask for tools to build a better, more robust and full experience, we're not asking just for the sake of asking. It is all necessary.
Right. Absolutely. So, Catherine, I want to throw it to you now. I want you actually to tackle this question that was asked, because I'm sure that this had to come up with the situation in PA. And PA stands for Pennsylvania, if you don't know. For those out there. So were there conversations on the table about students who had parents with pre-existing conditions, but who had not received the vaccine? So I'm just curious, how did they handle that situation in that particular school district? Because I'm sure that was something that came up.
Well, there was no vaccine in August when students when students returned. So I think most districts, the district in which I work, including my district, they're offering parents a virtual platform. So we have in the district in which I live, we have an opportunity for students who, if their parents are not comfortable with them attending face to face, they are virtual. So I think that's a compromise that the district is offering. And I think I don't know about all districts in Maryland, but I do think the majority of districts are offering a virtual option for parents.
I want to ask Catherine a question, and if I can, Dr. Shepherd.
Go ahead.
Because again, our districts are still virtual. What was the teacher response when instructed that they would be returning to work, especially given the fact that most children are not vaccinated? It's a challenge, and it's a conversation that has to be approached because I've had teachers say to me, "Hey, my child isn't vaccinated, or all of my students wouldn't be vaccinated. I'm high risk. I don't want to potentially come to work and take something home to my children that could cause me to lose them." What's been the conversation from your teachers about being asked to return to an environment where kids aren't vaccinated?
I cannot say for sure because I have not talked to teachers, directly about this, but how the virtual model works, and I can just imagine this happening. So in some districts, teachers are teaching face-to-face and virtually at the same time. Students are pinging in. That's not how it works in my district. There are teachers who are assigned. They report to a building and they just teach virtually. I can imagine a district, if a teacher goes to a district saying, I have this pre-existing condition. I'm just saying, I'm using my imagination, but I can imagine a district saying, okay, based upon your history, we are going to assign you to the virtual platform. And then you have teachers who just teach face to face. So I think, again, not knowing, but that is a very, I hope there would be superintendents listening or people who are those decision makers, because that would be a great option to consider when you're asking staff to come back, and it would help teachers, I guess, better share the workload or bear the burden of the workload, because that is a lot, teaching face-to-face and teaching virtually, as some teachers are going to be expected to do. So that's how it's happening in my district.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm curious though, Catherine, is your district or is the state of Maryland a unionized district?
The district in which I live, I'm not sure again, but we know Maryland is heavily unionized. So there's a lot of, it's public knowledge, a lot of pushback. There is a lot of pushback. And I can say, I have to, dip my toe in the professional water for a second. So my district did have student learning centers, and for our most vulnerable students, I was a part of that. I was actually going in the building, and I was with my mask. I was going through the process. So I know a little bit about how that will look. But even with that, I know just what we encountered. I know what I've been hearing. I know teachers are just, because they are concerned.
Right.
But I don't know for sure here. I can't speak to the teacher, part or their response or the union's response here. I just know that when I see my son's teacher, I just know she's excited about teaching him. And I told her last night during parent-teacher conferences how much I appreciate that, because students definitely at this time need a sense of normalcy. We're glad to see you. We're happy to have you, so.
And you know what, Catherine, that goes a long way. And so even for those who are not even a part of this conversation, you need to share that with those parents that just a little bit of gratitude for those teachers who it'll be awesome for you just to say thank you. That will just open up the door so much for people who are literally risking their lives. They're frontline workers. Yes, I'm a frontline worker as a physician, but I understand that there are other types of frontline workers. Those who work in labor, those who work in grocery stores, those who are driving mass transit vehicles. They're frontline workers because they're making sure that our communities are up and going. And that's the reason for this conversation, because I'm going to pivot here a little bit, because we want to make sure that our Black and brown and BIPOC, as they say, Black, Indigenous, and people of color students are ready to go back into the school. One of the things that I have noted, and I've heard some parents, even in my clinics, have talked about, my child is actually doing better now that they have been removed out of the classroom because
you getting to the crux of it now. Keep driving. Let's go there. That's what I want to get to.
Well, thank you. All right.
You
want to take over? Look.
Yeah, let me drive for a second. One of the things, because it was put in the chat by Janita Gordon, and she talked about the fact that the educational system in America has not had a major overhaul since the 50s. Yeah. And I think one of the mental paradigms that we have got to come to grips with is everybody is talking about going back to normal. And hopefully what the pandemic should have taught us is that while it gives us a sense of normalcy, it doesn't mean it was the best practice. And so one of the things that being virtual has shown me, and educator Dr. Sheila Vickers put in the chat, what are some of the long-term effects? I think that some of the things that we have to look at are perhaps what we were doing before the pandemic is the catalyst for some of these things that we're struggling with now. And it really should help us to look at causation in context to evaluate, should we be shifting how we do school? Is the traditional 50s model of the schoolhouse where everybody comes and it's 30 kids or 25, is that the best model for everyone at all times? And so I'm going to give segue to McKenna because I can see it going. Thank you, Dr. Shepherd, for letting me be a backseat driver right here. But I'm passionate about this because as an African-American male who has taught African-American students in predominantly African-American school districts, I understand that what we think is normal normally doesn't work. And if we don't take this opportunity to retool education, retool how we deliver instruction, retool how we allocate resources, then we're just going to replicate what we already know doesn't work. McKenna?
So that is something that you must have picked up from me from November, because that's one of the main things that I said, particularly as it relates to students with disabilities, which is a big focus for me, as well as English language learners. School has not worked for those students traditionally, right? And one of my most precious, hardworking, amazing educators, she has 2 sons. One son is doing a phenomenal job. This is the best part of his educational career in terms of distance learning. And then she has another child who is really struggling. And so I think, to your point, Nick, this is working for people. I really want people to understand. I think sometimes it's not working for adults, but that doesn't mean it's not working for children, right? And so that's always my main concern. You know, we as adults have to make the adjustments, but school is for children. Be that a parent, be that a teacher. School, and so if we're not effective or our practices are not effective, they impact children. Our product, children, right? We support children. That's the function of our job. So she just helped me really understand as an educator, but also a parent. And so I think, to Nick's point, normal, cringe a little bit because I have to think about her son who this is working for, who found school arduous and difficult and now is thriving. What does that mean for him? So it does work for some. Again, and to be fair, she does have a lens in terms of support as a special educator. She is a strong teacher. So perhaps her students are able to get a little bit more than maybe a parent who does not have those resources or knowledge. But it's working for some. But I hope that we walk away with lessons learned. I know for a fact that a lot of my teachers are stronger in terms of, for example, the use of visuals and how that supports students who don't have rich literacy backgrounds or knowledge or language at all, or disability related to communication or language. That has been such a tremendous bridge for understanding and unlocking reading, unlocking comprehension, unlocking language. So we had to rely on visuals. We had to rely on certain things or strategies, instructional strategies. They would have worked all along, but in person, I don't know if people felt like they needed to use them. So there's some things that I think we have emerged stronger from. But again, I don't want to ignore the fact that there are kids who are struggling. But I hate to say it. When I looked at we disaggregated the data. The kids who had the most problem were the kids relying on their parents. So the primary kids, pre-K, K1, and our some of our students with the more severe and profound disabilities. Again, because they relied on adults. Yeah. So my children who were older, they know how to navigate technology. They were able to get on independently. Those are the students who we saw the least amount of impact. And so again, that just was more data for us to ensure that our parents and grandparents and aunties had what they needed to help students. But again, this is more of an adult issue when we're talking about students who are really struggling.
Let me just say, because it's a paradox, and I want you to speak to this paradox, Catherine, because, you being a parent, when I look at the statistics, the New York Times came out last week with a wonderful article about mothers, and in particular, they focusing on Black mothers. And so they were showing how 48% of Black mothers who said the pandemic has had a major effect on their ability to pay for necessities such as housing, food, utilities, things like that. So I can understand why there is this pull, because as McKenna just said, you have certain children who are relying on that adult supervision, the guidance, but yet the adults, they're struggling because unemployed. If they are employed, then they have to work while the child is at school. So I want you to speak to that paradox. Again, you and your husband both work wonderfully. So tell us, speak to that situation. How can we bring some relief?
That's tough. I mean, there definitely is a tension. And I hear that, we hear, oh, it's not safe. We hear that's amplified on the news, that's amplified, but we don't hear in rooms or as we're talking, I really need my child to go to school because I really need to work.
Right.
The economy, much of the economy is driven by, parents can go to work because kids go to school. And that's how it has worked, right? Like I can work during the school day because my child is in school and I think, I don't have an answer, but I just want to acknowledge that is it's a point of tension. How do we solve it? I don't know. I have a dear or an acquaintance. I want to call her a dear acquaintance. I guess I should call her a dear friend. She always struggles, she's struggling with this.
Yes.
Because she's saying this is not working. First of all, she has a little one. It's not working for her daughter. It's not working for her, the virtual setting. And we know too, that even, I'll just put this in here as an aside. It's not just the learning piece, right? It's not just the knowledge or the skills or the cognitive piece that's necessary, or that schools receive or students receive from the schoolhouse, but it's also a sense of efficacy. It's those other inputs, those other things that are poured into students from the interaction they receive with teachers. So I do struggle because I see where students, I drive around my school district, my professional school district, and I see kids out, and I know you're supposed to be logged in, but they're socializing because they're with each other. I'm sure y'all supposed to be on the computer at your homes, but it's just a lot that schools offer students besides the instruction. So I mean, it's bigger than we would never cover it all, but that is attention, and I acknowledge it. I know the safety factors, but I do know the economic factors as well. And so we need to really bring both sides to the table and try to find out the best way to solve those issues.
I want to chime in there, Dr. Shepherd, and say that, I think what Catherine shared is very poignant, but I also think it, as a building leader, as a district leader, I think, for me, it has caused me to be able to have some very courageous conversations with parents and share that, when your child has been this is the same child that when I send him home, it's a problem. But he's the same child now that's been at home with you 10 months, and all of a sudden, now you need him back in school. And so it has given me an opportunity to have some very frank and honest, open conversations with parents and reiterate, and I'll put it in the chat, that school is not childcare. Schools do not exist for you to have somewhere to take your child so you can go to work. And unfortunately, and I know that's not what Catherine was saying, but unfortunately, with a lot of our demographics, we're talking about our people. That is the mentality many times that is taken. I'm coming in the parking lot doing 80, spinning on two wheels. I open the door and don't even slow down to get you out so I can get to work. And the pandemic has given us a platform to reiterate parenting. That parenting includes all of these things that the last 10 months have required you to do. These are the things you should be doing all the time anyway. Of course, I want to celebrate and appreciate individuals like Brandon Pierce, who's listening, who is parenting two boys, and Michelle Timmons, and individuals who are engaged. And I think what it says is that it's causing us to refocus on a couple of things. Number one, you need a village. So for parents who have been living in isolation and you can't get along with nobody, and nobody can tell your child anything, and no one can discipline your child, hopefully the pandemic has given you a revelation that you need to parent your child in such a way that other people will want to be engaged with little Jimmy or little Jane. In addition to that, one of the things I want to lift up from a developmental perspective is that as a instructional leader, it's caused us to be innovative. When McKenna talked about how some kids are thriving and other kids are struggling, what it has said to me, and I'm, because I am unapologetically Christian, what it has done for me is looking at my building as my ministry as well. Jesus said, "Go and make disciples of all men." But what we've many times tried to do is make duplicates, and so. We try to make duplicates, and we want to duplicate the same experience. I want every classroom to look the same. All kids need to be in a classroom. They need to be in a building. And so what we've done is we've made duplicates when what we should be doing is making disciples. And if you look at who Jesus called in getting disciples, he was intentional about not calling the same types of people to be his disciples. He had diversity. And hopefully one of the prophecies that the pandemic should have given us is that we need a bigger appreciation for diversity of instruction, diversity of learning, diversity of school models, diversity of resources, diversity in how we deliver instructional pedagogy, that all of these things speak to success. And so I just wanted to share that helping parents parent, that's something that we've in our district have really ramped up. Is because we got parents who want to leave their house because they got to be there with their kid. It shouldn't be that way. But because it takes a village, we are providing resources and supports and offering counseling online and therapy online and even doing discipline online to help parents, manage their children while they are at home.
Yeah, I have gotten several calls about how did you make such and such do what you needed them to do. Very, very concerning. So one of the things that I want to bring up, because Catherine brought up the point, and I thought, and it's a valid point about the economy, but a lot of teachers are very bitter about the fact that the economy, now that has become the major thing of importance, it appears, because it seems like some of the things that we have held really tight to for the last 9 months is out the window, right? Some of the numbers have not gone down, but we're making a big push to go back to school. If that were the case, why weren't we just in school, right? We don't necessarily need both vaccinations to be back. Like some of the things that we stated needed to happen in the very beginning, we're seeing overturned in terms of the level of importance. But the feel from the educational community is that we are dispensable, that the economy is at the expense of us. Wow. And if we are really and truly essential workers, there are some perks, i.e. pay, perks, i.e. respect, perks, i.e. benefits that go along with that. So it just appears from, and I'm talking about a lot of my teachers, they're like, that's not my problem that the economy is where it is. I mean, I'm a participant of the economy as well, and don't challenge my love for students and my profession because I have concerns about things that were so important 5 months, 6 months, 7 months ago, but now aren't as important because you want me to go back to work.
And McKenna, speak to the fact that it's causing retirement to go through the roof.
And people leaving the profession. I mean, I've had quite a few people tell me they're not interested in the vaccine for whatever reason. And I'm not in a position to preach one perspective versus another as a supervisor. Retirement, moving on from the profession, not returning, FMLA. Like, I have concerns. My colleagues have concerns about how we will be able to do some of the things that are required if we don't have people.
Wow.
So we can't keep beating up people, not treating people well, not respecting people, and then just expect them, oh, but you know, because you work with kids, you're just supposed to be okay with it and because you love them.
Yeah. Catherine, jump in here.
Yeah, I wanted to say, Nick, I wholeheartedly agree with you. I think it's about, I mean, no matter what I do, and I have many roles, but parenting or being a parent is the, okay?
I hear a note in your throat. Was you about to tune up, Catherine?
It's the most important role, or one of the most, wife, mother, the most important roles. And so I wish I had the kind of, I preach this in small pockets, to parents. You are the first teacher. You have to partner with the school. I'm saying this, former administrator, like teacher, you have to partner with me. I should not have more influence always over your child than you have over your child. It's important that a loving home is cultivated. It's important that structures are in place. I'm not you don't have to have money. I'm not saying you don't have to have a lot of money to have a loving home, or a lot of money to have your child go to bed at a certain time.
Right.
Or a lot of money to take your child to the library. Because people think, I don't have the money to supplement for these programs. We see our brothers and sisters of other persuasions, they may have, this event, or, my child in this enrichment activity or this enrichment activity. You can take your child to the library where programs are free, but you have to have the will to do so. So I just I don't want to get off, but it's just so important. It's so important because your child is the best. I always say this, the best thing you got going on as a parent, the reflection of you. We are reflections of our parents, what they put into us, we are reflections of that, not always, but a lot of times. And so I want to do the best. And I always tell my son, when he doesn't like something I have him do, I'm like, I have to answer to God for being your parent one day. I tell him, when I go to heaven, God is going to ask me, I gave you Levi. What did you do with Levi? I say that. And, parents, we just have to be responsible and partner with schools, not beating them up. Not, well, I'm just going to take my child and I don't understand what you, no. And I'm going to say this, I'm going to kind of put this in here, Dr. Shepherd. Mm-hmm. When you're looking at taking your child, back, or don't just, I don't understand what y'all doing, and I'm not gonna do it. What's happening? Just that disgruntled. No, read the district's recovery plan. Talk to the school. Do you have the appropriate PPE? What's social distancing going to look like? What's cohorting going to look like? What are traffic patterns going to look like? Are you administering a health assessment to individuals who come into your building? I mean, just questions so that you are educated and you are informed and you are calm and you can make decisions based upon data, based upon information, not based upon what somebody told you or what you heard or because you have to go to work. And I know that's hard because it's hard for us to juggle. Okay, who's going to watch Levi? Who's going to do this? Who's going to, it's hard to do that, but your child is the best thing you have going. And, wow. And you have to be intentional about parenting them.
Wow. Oh, I love that. Your child's the best thing you got going. I'm
going
to utilize that.
One of the things that one of my friends shared with me was that this experience, because she's very much, I know Catherine, so I know what kind of person she is, and I know how serious she takes being a mother. But one other friend of mine said that one of the things that she realized is she was so busy being busy, she had not really cultivated some of the things that, when she started spending more time with her kids, she realized she hadn't cultivated some of the things that she had wished. So one of the things she shared with me, she's like, we're not going to be that as busy as we used to be. And she said, I realized that every Saturday was packed with activities. She said, we're cutting some of that out. We're going to go back to the basics. We're going to spend more time together as a family. They do game nights now as a family. And so there have been, again, there are some horror stories as it relates to this, but there are some things that can come out of it. And hopefully those are the things that people kind of hold on to. But you're right, Catherine, hopefully people were able to spend a certain amount of time with their children and assess what they needed. Some of my parents were like, I didn't realize my kid was struggling this much. I didn't know, when I sat down and watched the other kids perform in the class, I didn't realize how much my child didn't know or couldn't perform or was behind. And while people were trying to tell me those things, I rejected it. But when I saw it for myself. So again, I'm just hoping that the lessons learned we can capitalize and grow from. Yeah. Parents as well as schools, right? Yeah. Because there were some things that were illuminated on our side as well that we just have to change and can't go back when we return.
Yeah, I'll say this, and you're absolutely right. And I go right back to the conversation that Janita Gordon, who I know from way back in the day, she's in Arizona. She was the one who brought up about the retooling and the revamping of the educational system. And what I want to make is a clear point before we go tonight is that there is support out there for the government to be able to provide. This is federal government, state government, local government. This is the time now for we to get our schools back up in infrastructure. Why do I want to send my child back to a crumbling school again? What have we done? What have we done to make sure that the broadband capacity is up to par? What have we done to make sure that the ventilation systems are better than what they used to be? So, that's really a lot of where this question came from. Are our schools safe to reopen for our Black children? to be able to go back to, because a lot of the children are in environments, are in schools that are dilapidated. They're not up to code, they're not up to par. And I'm thankful that that you're looking at some educators right here who are working in wonderful school districts, but there's some out there that they're not as good as yours. And so I keep that in mind. I'm very sensitive to that, and so I encourage you, and as we're wrapping up here, as I give you our last words, I'm going to encourage you all to get in contact with your local, state government, and federal government. So much is focusing on the federal government. That's not where the power is. The power is at the local government. They are the ones that, even when the governor makes the mandate, the local government is the one that chooses whether or not they're going to listen to the governor. All right. This pandemic should have shown you the whole hierarchy of where people who really understand where the power lies is within our local government. And we've got to push for them to do better. I remember very clearly, and now I'm talking too much. Y'all get me stirred up.
I was going to say, going back to Catherine's point about advocating, let's rise above petty conversations about what color shoes somebody does or doesn't have on acceptable. Let's have conversations on the level you just spoke to.
Yeah.
Please explain to me why, if I live in this zip code, this appears to be acceptable because school A, B, and C have these things. But let's, as a parent, your voice is very strong. You can look to the last election that we had on a federal level and see how influential black votes were. Okay, absolutely. So leverage that power to have more robust conversations that are going to have a bigger impact. Let's not fight about the things that aren't going to have, huge impact for our students. Let's fight for the things that will support students for generations to come. We've got to get beyond. She got an A-, or why didn't my child get to sing the lead? Why do we not have, like you said, the broadband? Why isn't there one-to-one in this particular school? Why can't we, do some of the things that our neighboring districts do? That's gotta be what we're fighting for at this point.
Nick, last words.
I think, when McKenna was talking, it made me think about, needless to say, gentrification. And when we think gentrification doesn't happen in education, but it does. And so as we talk about changing the landscape, changing the experience, changing the outlook for African-American boys and girls, we're talking about celebrating Black History Month. I want to challenge our virtual listening audience, challenge those who are watching, challenge parents and teachers to ask yourself, what am I actively and purposefully and intentionally doing to have courageous conversations with my senator or legislator? How did they vote in the, in my state House of Representatives and Senate on bills that impact education? How am I, what coalition or what type of PAC am I building to put pressure in, to leverage our dollars to say to them, you've got to get the tools that my school needs in order to build me a successful student so that they can have a successful future. So I want to ask, our individuals, as we talk about, changing the outlook, what are you doing as an individual, whether you have a child or not, biological, nephew, niece, grandchild, godchild, they're all of our children. And so children are a revelation of their parents. And so you may not be able to leave them an inheritance of millions of dollars, because my parents weren't able to leave me one. But what they did leave me were principles that taught me how to be a productive citizen, and they were actively engaged in making sure that I understood the value of an education, because you can take away a job, you can never take away what I know.
Good. Wonderful. Catherine, last words here.
I don't know. It's all been said, but I'll just reiterate that parent voice is powerful.
Wow.
So parents, use your voice. As I said before, Dr. Shepherd, when I was on your show before, not in a combative way, because people expect to hear, they expect sometimes to hear that from us. But relax, calm down, read what's out there, talk to leaders, and advocate for your children, advocate for your children, but you be the first teacher for your child as well. Be able to work through the system. When students go back to school, take advantage of what the school offers. And then you supplement it, because schools are not going to be able to teach everything, but you supplement because you are the first teacher. Then I'll just leave it at that.
This is wonderful, man. This has been great. Oh, we could go a little bit longer, but we're not. We're gonna put a stop right here. You can be guaranteed, Catherine Toller, Nick South, and McKenna Lewis, you will be back to do another a data review, performance review, as we call it, the performance review, just before school ends. So look for your invitation to come back again. I am just been just overjoyed, just elated. Really, that's the word. At just how many people have been commenting. I mean, the comment section has been blowing up. I see some people who I normally don't even see on here who is commenting. So that is wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. This has been a great conversation. It has been very factual. We've dealt with the tensions that are there, and then we've dealt with some solutions. One of the main things that has come out of this is that your voice is powerful. The parent's voice is powerful. Please don't allow someone to quiet that voice, but make sure that you are utilizing that voice and utilizing it in the correct and appropriate manner. And that really will get some things done. We may not be able to fix it all, but the pandemic has really shown us that we must stand up for what we believe in. And we must stand up for our Black children. Our Black children are put at a disadvantage, unfortunately, by so many different people who don't even like them. And again, that can in itself could be a whole other show. So, I'll leave that alone. But we want to make sure that we are doing our part, because as Nick said, education is something that you can't take away from me. You might be able to get those millions of dollars, but let me tell you, when I know the knowledge in my head is there, I want to be able to earn that $1 million and be able to earn it rightfully. So this has been a wonderful discussion. Hope Health Systems is the sponsor of this Ask the Doctors broadcast. I'm Dr. Jonathan Shepard, the Chief Medical Director of Hope Health Systems, and I'm just glad to be able to come to you all each week. This is something I've been doing. There's no fanfare. It's just I want to be able to educate and be able to add and aid to people surviving this pandemic. That is the goal. That's the passion. That's why I do it every single week. We want you to come on through. We want your children to come on through. We want your parents to come on through successfully. If you need to have mental health care at Hope Health Systems, you can reach out to us at 410-265-8737 or hopehealthsystems.com, and we'll do you some good if you come on over. I want our panelists to hang tight. Thank you all again. Please share this particular conversation. It was powerful. It will change people's lives. Thank you again, McKenna. Thank you again, Nick South. Thank you again, Catherine Toller. And we know that the best is yet to come. Wash your hands, wear your mask, watch your distance, and wait on gatherings. See you later.